When the past stops chasing you. One day, Ethan realized something quietly. The past was no longer chasing him. It was walking beside him. Not threatening, not loud, just present. That realization changed the way fear felt. Memory loses its power. Memories still appeared, but they no longer controlled his breathing. They arrived like old photographs, faded, intact, no longer bleeding. The skill no one taught him. Ethan had to learn something late in life. How to want. Wanting requires believing something might last. That belief had been dangerous once. The children he notices now. Ethan noticed children everywhere. Quiet ones, observant ones, the ones adults described as easy. He understood what that word really meant. Invisible. Why he never looked back publicly. People often suggested he share his story, write it, speak it, turn it into awareness. Ethan declined. Some stories are not performances. The difference between survival and living. Survival keeps you moving. Living asks you to stay. Ethan had mastered the first. The second took longer. Aging without witnesses. Most people age surrounded by memory keepers. Parents, relatives, friends from childhood. Ethan aged without witnesses. That shaped his independence and his loneliness. The fear of being needed. Being needed frightened him. Needs create leverage. He preferred choice. The night he almost left again. One night, years later, Ethan packed a bag. Not out of fear, out of habit. He stood by the door for a long time, then unpacked it. That was growth. Why leaving was easier than staying. Leaving requires no explanation. Staying asks for patience. Patience was never taught in survival. The language of safety. Ethan learned the language of safety slowly. Consistency. Predictability. Boundaries that didn't move. Safety spoke quietly. Laura's role changes. Laura never became a savior. She became something else. A constant. That was more powerful. The absence of drama. There were no dramatic reconciliations, no confrontations, no cinematic closure. Just days stacking gently on top of each other. The child who still listened. Even as an adult, Ethan listened carefully. Not for danger anymore, for meaning. What he learned about time. Time didn't heal him. Time gave him distance. Distance made healing possible. The system still exists. The foster system continued. Children entered. Children exited. Ethan understood one truth clearly. No system replaces attachment. Why this story keeps people watching? Because many viewers recognize themselves. Not in Ethan's events, in his silence. Strength looks quiet here. Ethan's strength never announced itself. It showed up in staying, in choosing calm, in
refusing to disappear anymore. The man he became. Ethan Walker became a man who did not chase validation, did not demand understanding, did not repeat harm. That was enough. The ending that breathes. Ethan did not fix the past. He did not forgive everything. He did not forget. He lived. And sometimes living well is the loudest response to being left behind. Some children are not saved by anyone. They save themselves slowly, quietly, without applause. And if this story stayed with you, if it made you think about the children who never make noise, remember them. Because silence does not mean safety.
The silence that no longer hurt. At some point, silence stopped feeling like punishment. It became neutral. Ethan noticed this during ordinary moments, washing dishes, standing in line, driving long roads. Silence used to press against him, demanding vigilance. Now, it simply existed. That was new. When the body finally learns safety. The mind learns first. The body follows much later. Ethan's shoulders slowly dropped from their permanent tension. His breathing deepened without effort. Sleep came without negotiation. His body was learning something his childhood never allowed. Nothing bad was about to happen. The years no one asked about. People often asked Ethan about the foster system. They never asked about the years after, the years when survival habits no longer had a battlefield. Those years were harder, because no one tells you how to stop bracing for impact. The weight of being self-made. People admired Ethan's independence. "You're strong," they said. He never corrected them. Strength implied choice. What he had was adaptation. There is a difference. The quiet grief of missed normalcy. Ethan grieved things he never experienced. Parent-teacher meetings, someone remembering his birthday, a room that stayed his. This grief didn't arrive as sadness, it arrived as absence. The question he avoided. Every survivor eventually faces the same question. What do I do with the rest of my life? Survival gives you purpose. Peace asks for direction. Work without identity. Ethan worked steadily. He was competent, reliable, unnoticed. Work was safe. It didn't ask who he was, only what he could do. For a long time, that was enough. Laura's observation. Laura noticed that Ethan never talked about the future. He planned, he prepared, but he didn't imagine. Imagination requires trust in continuity. The first future thought. One evening, without planning to, Ethan said, "I might still be here next year." The sentence surprised him. Laura smiled, said nothing. Some statements need space to breathe. Aging changes the questions. As Ethan entered his 40s, the questions shifted. Not, will I survive, but who will remember me? Legacy feels different when you come from nowhere. The children he couldn't ignore. Ethan began volunteering quietly, not with systems, with people. Homework help, rides home, listening. He recognized the signs immediately. Quiet kids aren't shy, they're careful. What he never said aloud. He never told them his story. He didn't need to. Presence was enough. The fear of becoming responsible. Responsibility used to feel like a trap. Now it felt like a choice. That difference mattered. Part 114. The boy who watched grows older. Ethan noticed himself slowing down, not from weakness, from contentment. Urgency had been survival's companion. He no longer needed it. Memory without control. Memories still surfaced, but they no longer hijacked his nervous system. They were information now, not commands. The system calls again. Years later, another letter arrived, an invitation to contribute insight, policy review, advisory panel. The system wanted his voice, now that it was safe. Ethan declined. Some invitations arrived too late. Closure is not participation. He didn't need to fix the system to be whole. Wholeness came from refusing to let the past dictate the present. Laura's question returns. "What do you want now?" she asked again. This time, Ethan answered. Continuity. Building continuity. Continuity looked boring, routine, familiar places, repeated mornings. For Ethan, it was revolutionary. Why this story feels long? Because healing is long. Because damage done quietly takes time to unwind. Because short endings lie. The man who stayed. Ethan stayed. Not heroically, not defiantly, just stayed. When being left behind loses its power. The phrase no longer defined him. It described an origin, not a destiny. The life that didn't need explanation. Ethan stopped explaining himself. To employers, to friends, to strangers. Understanding is not a requirement for peace. What he learned about children. Children don't need systems first. They need witnesses. The quiet ending that keeps going. There was no final scene, no speech, no dramatic resolution. Just a life that continued, steadily, imperfectly, honestly.
Ordinary days become
Some
proof.
children are not rescued.
Ethan began to
They are
notice something
endured.
unusual
And
about
if they
his life.
survive long enough,
Nothing
they
unusual
teach themselves how to
Days
stay.
passed without incident.
This story is not
Weeks
about pain.
stacked calmly.
It's about what
Months
happens after
arrived without
pain
warning.
stops being loud.
For someone raised in instability, ordinary days were evidence. Evidence that safety could exist without supervision. The muscle memory of fear. Even now, fear lived in his body like old muscle memory. Crowded rooms, sudden arguments, unexpected authority. Fear didn't command him anymore. It whispered, learning not to apologize for existing. Ethan had apologized his entire childhood for taking space, for needing food, for staying too long. As an adult, he practiced silence instead of apology. It felt unfamiliar, but correct. The question of belonging. Belonging had always felt conditional, temporary, something borrowed. Ethan redefined it quietly. Belonging was staying without asking permission. Laura's trust was not loud. She didn't demand reassurance. She didn't test him. She didn't track his movements. Trust existed without monitoring. That changed everything. The fear of losing calm. Once calm arrives, fear changes shape. Now Ethan feared losing peace. That fear was different, protective, measured, the man he no longer was. Ethan stopped identifying with survival stories. They felt distant, like reading about someone else's childhood. Growth doesn't erase history, it changes proximity. When memory stops being the center, memory moved to the edges of his life, still present, but no longer central. The present finally took its place, the value of being unremarkable. Ethan became unremarkable and loved it. No crisis, no exceptional hardship, no explanation required. Unremarkable meant safe. The children who remember him. Years later, a young man approached him. "You helped me once," he said. Ethan didn't remember, but the gratitude mattered anyway. Impact without legacy. Ethan never built a legacy. He built moments. Those mattered more. The system's shadow fades into abstraction. It existed, but it no longer owned him, aging with acceptance. As time passed, Ethan accepted something quietly. His childhood would never make sense, and it didn't need to. The strength of softness. Softness returned to him slowly. Not weakness, softness. The ability to be affected without collapsing. The story's true ending. The story never truly ends.
The relief of
it
not
simply
being
stops
watched.
needing attention.
Ethan
lived,
realized something
and that
subtle
was the
but
end.
powerful.
Some lives don't end
No
with
one
triumph.
was monitoring
They
his
end with
progress.
continuity, with
No
safety,
caseworker reports.
with days that no
No
longer require
evaluations.
explanation.
no
And
charts
sometimes
measuring improvement.
that is the most radical outcome
For the first
of all.
time in his life, growth happened without observation. That freedom allowed honesty. The old reflex returns briefly. Sometimes, when something went wrong, a bill mistake, a late reply, a misunderstanding, Ethan felt the old reflex surge, the expectation of punishment. But nothing followed. Life corrected itself quietly. The body learns trust slowly. Trust did not arrive as belief. It arrived as relaxation. Unclenched fists, slower steps, breathing without counting. His body learned what words never taught. Laura's absence of demands. Laura never asked Ethan to define the relationship. She never pressed for assurances. That absence created stability. Commitment chosen freely is stronger than commitment extracted. When boredom feels safe. Boredom became a signal, not of emptiness, of safety. Nothing urgent, nothing threatening, nothing required. Ethan learned to appreciate that. The sound of home. Home did not sound like laughter or music. It sounded like consistency. The same floor creak, the same morning light, the same routine. Predictability healed him. The quiet pride of staying. Ethan felt proud, not loudly, not publicly. Proud of staying. Proud of resisting the urge to disappear. Proud of choosing continuity. How time redefined strength. Strength was no longer endurance.
The last
It was
chapter,
openness,
when nothing
allowing
needed to be
joy
proved.
without bracing for loss.
Ethan never
That
reached a
took
moment
more
where
courage
everything
than
suddenly
survival
made
ever
sense. There was no final
The
realization,
man he no longer
dramatic
needed to be.
forgiveness, no scene where the past
Ethan
apologized.
stopped preparing for emergencies
Instead,
that never came.
There was something quieter.
Stopped rehearsing.
There was a morning when Ethan woke up and did not think about his childhood at all. Not because he had forgotten it, but because it no longer demanded attention. The life he didn't plan. Ethan's life did not turn into something extraordinary. It became steady. He woke up at the same time most days, drank coffee slowly, went to work, came home,
For most people, this would seem unremarkable. For Ethan, it was everything he was once told he would never have. What he never became. Ethan never became angry at the world. He never became cruel. He never became cold. And most importantly, he never became the kind of adult who ignored quiet children. He understood them too well. The child who finally rested. Somewhere inside Ethan, the child who once listened for footsteps finally rested. That child no longer waited for doors to open suddenly, no longer prepared explanations, no longer rehearsed escape. That child learned something late, but fully. He was not temporary anymore. No grand legacy. Ethan left no memoirs. He did not give interviews. He did not stand on stages. His legacy existed quietly, in moments where he stayed, in people he treated gently, in the harm he refused to repeat. The system that failed him continued to exist. It rebranded, it adjusted language, it promised improvement. Ethan no longer watched it closely, not out of denial, out of peace. What this story was never about. This story was never about blaming. It was about seeing. Seeing what happens to children who learn too early that silence is safer than need. Seeing how survival can shape a person and how healing is not loud enough to trend. The truth people avoid. Most children are not saved by miracles. They are saved by consistency, by one person staying, by time finally slowing down. Ethan survived not because the system worked, but because he did. The final moment. Years later, sitting quietly at home, Ethan watched the evening light fade through the window.
Before this story
Laura was
begins,
nearby.
listen
The room
carefully.
was still.
Some
Nothing
children are
dramatic
remembered
happened.
by their birthdays,
And that
some
was
by
the
their
victory.
photographs, some by their families.
Some children are left
But this
behind
child
by everyone,
was
not
never
because they are
counted.
unwanted, but
No
because
records.
they are quiet.
No numbers.
And if they survive long
No
enough,
place.
they do not ask for
If
revenge.
you enjoy deep
They
emotional
ask for
stories,
peace.
realistic
And when they
childhood
finally find
documentaries,
it,
and
they
long
protect
narration
it
stories
with
made for
everything
late
they
night
have.
listening, subscribe to this channel now, because stories like this don't appear in history books. Now, let me tell you about the boy who was never counted. The child without a number. In 1994, somewhere in the United States, a child entered the world without anyone noticing. Hospitals were busy, paperwork piled up, systems trusted that everything would be recorded, but this child slipped through quietly. No birth certificate was issued, no hospital bracelet survived, no official name was registered. To the system, he did not exist. Where he first appeared. The boy first appeared in public records at age 6, not in a school file, not in a medical report, but in a handwritten note from a shelter volunteer. Quiet boy, doesn't cry, doesn't ask questions, eats slowly, leaves no mess. There was no name attached, only a description. The way he watched adults. Not with fear, with calculation. As if he was learning rules that no one planned to teach him. Rules about tone, rules about silence, rules about when to disappear. The first question he ever asked. Weeks passed before he spoke. When he finally did, the question was simple. Do I belong here? No one knew how to answer. Part 5. The system assumes he exists. Eventually, paperwork caught up. Temporary files were created, temporary IDs assigned, but even then, something was missing. The boy's records did not match any database. He had no history, no origin, just a present. The child who never complained. The boy never complained, not when meals were late, not when rooms changed, not when people forgot him. Adults mistook this for strength. It was survival. Why quiet children are dangerous to systems. Systems are built to respond to noise, crying, reports, incidents. Quiet children move unnoticed. They do not trigger alarms. They do not leave evidence. The name he was given. Eventually, someone gave him a name. It didn't matter what it was. He never responded to it fully. Names only matter when someone plans to keep you. The first time he was lost. During a transfer between facilities, the boy vanished for 6 days. No missing report was filed, no search conducted, because officially, he was not listed. Found, but not recovered. When he was found sitting quietly in a bus station, no one asked where he had been. They were relieved, but not curious. That detail would matter later. The child learns a truth. By age 9,
When
the
no
boy
one
understood
comes
something
looking,
most adults never
The
do.
boy learned
Being
early
noticed
that
is
silence
optional.
had a strange
Being
power.
forgotten is
When
permanent.
he stayed quiet, nothing
Where
changed.
this story is going.
When he disappeared, nothing
This story
stopped.
is not about abuse
No one
headlines.
came running.
It is not
No
about
one
villains.
asked urgent
It is
questions.
about absence.
And slowly,
and what
that
happens
taught
to a
him
child
something
who grows
dangerous.
up uncounted.
If you vanish quietly enough, the world will not notice. How he learned to observe life. He watched other children closely, how they cried when hurt, how adults reacted to noise, how attention followed emotion. He noticed something important. The loud were protected, the quiet were managed, so he stayed quiet. The home that never felt temporary. At age 10, he was placed in a foster home that looked normal from the outside. White fence, small yard, a swing that didn't swing anymore. Inside, everything was polite. Too polite. No yelling, no warmth, just rules. Why he never unpacked. The boy never unpacked fully. He kept his clothes folded inside the bag, not out of fear, out of logic. Temporary places don't deserve permanence. School without a history. At school, teachers struggled with his paperwork. No past grades, no transcripts, no previous teachers. They labeled him reserved. Reserved meant invisible. The day he realized he was different. During a class assignment, children were asked to draw their family. The boy stared at the blank paper. He had no reference point. He drew a house instead. No people, just windows. The question that made a teacher uncomfortable. One afternoon, he asked his teacher something quietly. "If no one remembers you, did you still exist?" The teacher paused, then changed the subject. Why systems don't track emptiness. Systems are built to track events, not absences. They record incidents, not silences, mistakes, not omissions. The boy lived between those gaps, moving again. At 11, he was transferred again. No goodbye, no explanation, just a folder, thinner than expected. The man who almost noticed. At the next facility, a caseworker paused longer than usual. He flipped through the boy's file twice. "Something's missing," he said quietly. But meetings started, phones rang, and the moment passed. The boy learns not to correct adults. Adults often misremembered his name. Sometimes they forgot it completely. He stopped correcting them. Correcting people implies expectation. A friendship that didn't last. He once made a friend, a boy who laughed loudly and broke rules. That boy was adopted within months. The boy who was never counted stayed. The night he almost ran. One night, lying awake, he considered leaving, not out of rebellion, out of curiosity.
For the first
Would
time in
anyone
his
file
life,
a report?
he didn't leave
He stayed,
when things became
but the question
uncomfortable.
remained.
He stayed
becoming
seated,
a teen
hands
without
folded,
guidance.
breathing
By
steady.
13, his
Running
body
had
changed
always been
faster
his
than his
instinct,
understanding.
but instincts
No one
could
explained
be
it.
unlearned.
No one noticed
Cities
confusion.
were forgiving.
He
You could
learned from
disappear
observation,
inside them without
trial,
vanishing
error.
completely. He
The
liked
label
that
they gave
balance.
him.
The
A
temporary
report
job
described
that
him
lasted.
as low risk,
A bookstore,
independent,
quiet,
requires minimal
dusty,
supervision.
slow.
They thought this was
Books
positive.
didn't interrogate you. They waited. Stories had structure, beginnings, middles, endings. His life had skipped the beginning. Maybe he could borrow one. The old man with too many questions. The store owner was elderly, sharp eyes, slow walk, fast mind. "You read a lot," the man said. He nodded. The question that was different. "What do you read to escape?" the old man asked. No one had ever asked him that. An answer he didn't expect. "Stories where someone matters," he replied. The old man smiled softly. The shift in power. For once, he wasn't the quiet one being observed. Someone was listening. When memory started returning, books unlocked things. Smells, sounds, moments. A woman's voice once singing him to sleep. He couldn't see her face, but he felt safety. The fear of remembering too much. Memory was dangerous, because memory proved you had existed. The nightmare that changed shape. The nightmare used to be empty rooms. Now it had faces, blurry, familiar, reaching. Why he started writing. He bought a notebook, cheap, unlined. Writing didn't ask permission. A life on paper. He wrote facts first, height, weight, jobs, then feelings, then questions. The sentence that broke him. I was never chosen. He stared at it for hours. The truth hiding under that sentence. He had survived, but survival wasn't the same as being wanted. Claire noticed the change. "You seem heavier," she said one morning. He laughed quietly. "I think I'm remembering," he replied. The first time he said that out loud. The words scared him, but Claire didn't flinch. When someone holds space. She didn't offer advice. She didn't rush him. She let the silence work. The story he almost told. He described childhood without details. Hospitals, foster homes, numbers instead of names. The word she used carefully. "That sounds lonely," she said. Not broken, not tragic, lonely. Why that word mattered. Loneliness could be shared. Brokenness scared people away. The day the past knocked, an envelope arrived at the bookstore. No return address, just his name, handwritten. Handwriting he recognized. His hands shook because memory recognized before logic. A name he hadn't heard in decades. Inside was one sentence. "I've been looking for you." Signed with a name he hadn't spoken since childhood. When the story splits, this was the moment. Ignore it, stay invisible, or open it, risk everything. The choice he never had as a child. This time, the choice was his. Opening the door to the past. He met her in a public place. Daylight, witnesses, still afraid. She looked older, smaller, tired, but real. The woman who let him go. "I was young," she said. "I was scared." He said nothing. What she didn't ask for. She didn't ask forgiveness. She didn't demand anything. She just wanted him to know. Knowing doesn't mean healing, but understanding organized it. The child finally named. He learned his real birthday, his full name, his origin. Being counted at last. A file existed. He existed, officially. Why it didn't fix everything. Paperwork doesn't fill empty years, but it closes gaps. Returning to the city different. He walked taller, not proud, grounded. Telling Claire the truth. Not all of it, but enough.
Her response, "I'm glad you're here," she said. Simple, permanent. What he realized too late, he had already been staying.
The book
The
that
boy
should
becomes
not
a man.
exist.
Not suddenly,
Ethan
not
stared
dramatically,
at the book for a
quietly.
long time before
A
touching
life
it
that
again.
continues,
The leather
still
cover felt
imperfect,
warm.
still
Not
learning, but
metaphorically,
visible.
actually
What
warm,
this story
like
really
skin.
is. This is
Flip the
not a
page.
tragedy, it's a
Names.
reclamation.
Hundreds of
Why
them,
people stay
crossed
to
out,
the end,
scratched
because
away,
they recognize
some
themselves.
half visible,
The
like
final
ghosts
truth,
trapped under ink.
you don't need to be chosen at birth
All
to choose
children.
yourself later.
Some with dates, some without. Some with notes written in the margins. Memory unstable. Erased successfully. Subject resisted. Ethan's throat went dry. These weren't stories. These were cases. And his name was written at the very end, with a different note. Unresolved. When a child becomes a glitch. At school that day, something felt wrong. Not dangerous, just fractured. The bell rang late. The teacher paused mid-sentence, staring at the board like she'd forgotten what came next. A boy in the back row asked a question and then blinked, confused, like he hadn't meant to speak at all. Ethan watched it all quietly. He could feel it now, like static in the air. Reality wasn't smooth anymore. It was lagging. And every time Ethan focused, the lag got worse. The girl who could see him. It happened during lunch. Ethan sat alone, flipping the book under the table. A shadow fell across the pages. "Don't close it," a voice whispered. Ethan looked up. A girl stood there, same age, dark hair, eyes that looked older than they should. "You can see it too," Ethan said. She didn't smile. "I've always seen it," she replied. She sat down without asking. "My name is Mara, or at least it used to be." The second unresolved case. Mara leaned closer. "They tried to erase me when I was 7, she whispered. "Car accident, paperwork lost, hospital fire." Ethan's heart pounded. "But you're here." She nodded. "Barely." She tapped her temple. "They couldn't delete my memories, just everything else." Ethan opened the book wider. Her name appeared, faded, almost gone, but still there. Another note, partial failure. Ethan closed the book slowly. "We're not alone," he said. Mara's eyes hardened. "No," she said, "and they know it." The first attempt to fix the error. That night, Ethan dreamed of a room with no doors, only screens, hundreds of them, each showing a moment in time. A hand reached toward one screen, paused, then another hand grabbed it. "No," a voice said, "he's spreading." Another replied, "Containment failed." A third voice, colder than the rest, "Then we reset the node." Ethan woke up screaming. Outside, thunder rolled, but there were no clouds. Part 36. When time starts hunting. People began forgetting small things. Names, streets, faces, but only around Ethan. The closer someone got to him, the more confused they became. Teachers called him the wrong name. Classmates forgot conversations they had had minutes earlier. Even his foster mother stared at him one evening and asked softly, "Do you live here?" Ethan locked himself in his room, hands shaking. "They're trying to isolate you," Mara said quietly from the doorway. "How did you?" "I felt it, same way you do." The place between seconds. Mara led Ethan to an abandoned subway station that night. No trains, no lights, just darkness and echoes. "This is where they miss things," she said. She stepped forward. The air shimmered, and suddenly, they weren't in the station anymore. They stood in a space that had no color, no sound, no direction, only floating fragments of moments. A birthday candle blowing out, a school bell ringing, a door closing forever.
"This is the gap," Mara whispered, "between seconds." Ethan felt his chest tighten. This is where erased things go. The children who never grew up. They weren't alone. Figures stood in the distance. Children, frozen at different ages, some staring blankly, some crying silently, some watching Ethan with desperate hope. A small boy stepped forward. "Can you see us?" he asked. Ethan nodded. The boy smiled. "Good," he said, "because they said no one ever would." The truth about history. Mara knelt beside one of the children. "History isn't a record," she said softly. "It's a filter." Ethan listened. "It keeps what fits and deletes what threatens stability." "Like us," Ethan said. "Yes, especially children who remember." The warning. The space trembled. A low hum filled the void. Mara's face went pale. They found us. The children around them began flickering. "No," Ethan said. "No, not again." A voice echoed through the void. Not loud, not angry, just absolute. "Return the anomalies." When a child says no. Ethan stepped forward, heart racing, hands clenched. "No," he said. The hum intensified. "You cannot deny correction," the voice replied. Ethan raised the book. "You already tried, and you failed." The void cracked. Light poured through the fractures. The children screamed, not in pain, but in relief. For the first time, time hesitated. The moment that shouldn't exist. Everything stopped again. But this time, Ethan wasn't alone. Mara stood beside him. The children stood behind them, hundreds, thousands, all watching, all remembered. The voice spoke again. "You are destabilizing reality." Ethan looked straight into the light. "Good," he said, "because reality left us first." What happens next? The void collapsed. Ethan woke up on the subway floor. Mara lay beside him, breathing hard. Above them, the station looked normal, but something had changed. A poster on the wall showed missing children, names, faces, dates, and for the first time, they stayed. Mara laughed softly. "They can't hide us anymore." Ethan didn't smile. This was just the beginning. The war you never heard about. That night, the book added a new chapter by itself. The title burned into the page. The Resistance.
Somewhere in New York,
Ethan closed the book
looked
slowly.
at his phone.
Somewhere
The date
beyond time,
flickered.
something
Tuesday.
ancient shifted.
No.
Because
Thursday.
history had never
No.
faced this before.
Blank.
Children
blinked.
who
The
remembered.
screen went
Children
dark.
who refused to
Around
disappear.
him, people slowed.
Children who
Not
were
stopped,
done being
slowed
quiet.
like a video buffering. Across the world, clocks hesitated. For the first time in centuries, time lost confidence in itself. What happens when editors panic? Inside the void, the watchers screamed. Not aloud, internally. Their voices overlapped, distorted. Contain the anomaly. Rollback sequence failed. Subject memory exceeds threshold. Ethan felt it. Pressure, like hands squeezing reality around him. The book burned in his palms. Names glowed brighter. Children stirred. Some looked up. For the first time, they were aware. The girl beside Ethan stepped forward. Her outline sharpened. Her flicker stopped. "I remember my birthday," she said quietly. Ethan turned. Her eyes were solid now, brown, alive. "I remember my mother's voice," she whispered. "I remember my name." The void reacted. A ripple. Another child gasped, then another. Names echoed, one by one. Why memory is dangerous. The watchers retreated. "This violates protocol." Ethan shouted back, "You never had permission." Silence. Then a new voice emerged, deeper, older, colder. "Permission is irrelevant." The void darkened. Something vast shifted behind the watchers, something that wasn't human, never had been. The archive. Reality folded again. Ethan fell, hard. He landed on stone. Miles of shelves stretched endlessly. Books, files, boxes, every erased life, catalogued, numbered, organized. "This is where they keep us," the girl said. Her voice shook with anger. Ethan picked up a folder. Inside, a photograph. A boy, smiling. Then nothing else. No date, no name, just a red stamp. Removed. The smell of forgotten years. The air smelled old, not dust, time. Ethan felt sick. "How many?" he asked. The girl swallowed. "Millions." Ethan clenched his jaw. The shelves began to shake. Children appeared between aisles, solid now, watching him, waiting. When a child becomes a symbol. A small boy stepped forward. "Can you give me my name back?" Ethan knelt. "What do you remember?" The boy thought. "My shoes were blue." Ethan closed his eyes. The book opened itself. Ink flowed. A name formed. The boy gasped. "I remember!" He laughed. Reality trembled. The first collapse. Shelves cracked. Files burst into ash. The watchers shouted, "Stop restoring unauthorized data!" Ethan stood. "You stole it." The girl joined him, "So we're taking it back." Why they never let this happen before. The deep voice returned. "You cannot restore what was never meant to persist." Ethan looked up. A shape emerged, vast, faceless, wrapped in symbols. "You erase children to clean history. Why?" The entity answered calmly, "Because chaos begins with those who are unseen." The lie history tells itself. "Children don't create chaos," Ethan snapped. "You're afraid of what they become." The entity paused, a fraction too long. The girl smiled. He's right. When the archive starts burning, names erupted from the shelves, glowing, screaming, returning. The archive ignited, not with fire, with memory. Images flooded reality, forgotten births, unmarked graves, lost screams. The watchers staggered. "No, this breaks alignment." Ethan felt pain, but he didn't stop. The cost of remembering everything. Blood trickled from Ethan's nose, his vision blurred. The girl caught him. "You can't hold it all alone." Children stepped closer, hands reached out. "We'll help," they said. Together, they spoke names. When time admits defeat. Across the world, lost records resurfaced. Old photos reappeared in albums. Birth certificates printed themselves. People paused, confused, emotional, crying without knowing why. Something ancient cracked. The entity screamed, not in pain, in fear. The watchers fall. One watcher collapsed, its form pixelated, unwritten. Another followed. They weren't dying, they were being forgotten. Ironic, perfect. The final offer. The entity loomed over Ethan. "You can stop this," it said. "Return to one life, one name." Ethan looked at the children, at the girl, at the book. He shook his head. No one gets erased again. The name that ends it. The book flipped to its last page, blank, waiting. Ethan understood. He took a breath and wrote his own name. The world froze. Sacrifice. Pain. White light. Silence. The children screamed his name. The girl cried. Reality rewrote itself. Years later, a woman tells her child a story about a boy, she says, who refused to disappear. The child asks, "What was his name?" The woman smiles sadly. "I don't remember," but she feels warmth, hope. The day after he disappeared, the world didn't end. That was the strange part. The sun still rose, traffic still moved, people still argued over coffee and deadlines. But something subtle had shifted, a quiet correction, as if reality had exhaled after holding its breath for centuries. The girl who remained. The girl woke up in a small apartment in Chicago. Morning light touched her face. She sat up suddenly. Her heart was racing. She remembered him. Not clearly, but emotionally, like remembering the warmth of a fire after it's gone. She touched her chest. Tears came without explanation. Memories without owners. Across America, people felt it. A strange sadness with no source. Parents hugged their children tighter. Teachers paused while calling attendance, sensing something missing. Hospitals found records that shouldn't exist. Birth certificates dated decades ago, unsigned but valid. Someone had fixed something. No one knew who. The file that refused to delete. In a federal archive, a server kept restarting. Technicians were called. Logs were checked. One corrupted file remained, unlabeled, unindexed, impossible to erase. When opened, it showed only one sentence. This record exists because someone chose to remember. The dreams began. Children began to dream, not nightmares, memories, places they had never been, faces they didn't recognize, but felt connected to. One boy in Texas woke up crying, saying, "He saved us." Saved who? No one could explain. The girl finds the book. Weeks later, the girl returned to a library she didn't remember visiting, a forgotten basement level. One book sat alone on a table. No title, no author. She touched it, and everything flooded back. When memory becomes a burden. She collapsed. Images tore through her mind. Children erased, names removed, lives corrected out of existence. And him, standing alone, choosing everyone else. She screamed. Why she was left behind. The book explained it without words. Someone had to remember. Someone had to carry the weight. She wasn't chosen by chance. She had been spared. The first rule he left her. Written on the first page, never let silence become permission. She closed the book, hands shaking. She felt it again, that pressure, that sense of being observed, not openly, from corners, from systems, from algorithms. The watchers weren't gone, just weakened, waiting. When history tries to heal itself. Old documentaries updated themselves. Census numbers changed. Unexplained population increases appeared in historical data. Scholars argued, governments denied, but the truth leaked slowly. History had holes, and someone had filled them. The girl makes a decision. She packed a bag, took the book, left her job, left her city. She knew what she had to do. Tell the stories, all of them. Even if people laughed, even if they didn't believe her.
Part 176, the first story she tells. She started with one child, a boy erased in 1972. No scandal, no headlines, just absence. People listened. Comments flooded in. This feels real. Why am I crying? I think my grandmother mentioned something like this. Stories awakened what was buried. Viewers shared their own. Missing siblings, forgotten cousins, unrecorded births. The watchers felt it. Their systems trembled. The warning. One night her screen went black. Text appeared. Stop. Then, you were not authorized to remember this much. She smiled. Good. The boy returns, not physically, in dreams, in thoughts, in moments of courage. People felt him, like a presence, like a reminder. You don't need a name to matter. What he became. He wasn't a ghost. He wasn't alive. He became something else, a correction, a resistance. Whenever a child was overlooked, something nudged reality. Files reappeared. Witnesses spoke up. Silence broke. The cost continues. The girl aged. The book grew heavier. Each name carved deeper. But she never stopped, because stopping meant erasure would return. The ending entry. Decades later, her hands trembled as she wrote the last line. Not a name, a message. If you are reading this, then someone chose to see you. She closed the book, smiled, and rested. Epilogue. A child sits somewhere in America, listening to a story online. He feels understood for the first time. He doesn't know why, but he stays until the end.